There we go. Okay, done. All right, hi, my name is Jessica, and this is Brianna. Hello. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Today, we will be covering Road to a Hopeful COVID-19 Future. As you see here, I have everyone listed. Unfortunately, Rachel Cook is not here to join us. So a little bit about what we'll be covering today is we'll be covering the timeline, the antiviral and antibodies and vaccines. We'll also be covering any misconceptions and any vocabularies that, or any vocab that we saw that we needed to define. Also, unfortunately, since Rachel is not here, she was responsible for experiments and risk populations. We will not be covering those sections because she did not provide her notes for that. So let's move on to timeline. So timeline, in December 2019, they had their first case of COVID. Also moving on to January 2020, it was confirmed that it was a human-to-human infection or virus where you can be infected by human-to-human interaction. Also in January 2020, WHO declared the COVID pandemic a PHEIC alert. In February 2020, WHO also stated that it was a risk assessment, which increased to very high on the global level. And COVID-19 was given its name in February 2020. In March 2020, WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. And then in October 2020, there were 34 million cases and 1 million deaths. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to, we're gonna skip experiments, of course, risk populations. We're gonna go ahead and move on to antivirals and antibodies. In the study, potential antiviral options against SARS-CoV-2 infection viruses, they assessed the neutralization ability of 7 plasma samples collected from people who carried the virus, which is COVID-19 virus. They also used samples of people who recovered from COVID-19. They also tested 136 agents against COVID-19 in Vercal E6 cells. 7 different concentrations of the compounds were added to virus infected cells. The cell viability was measured after 72 hours to determine compound effect. To make sure that it was being, to see how it was being affected. They used inhibitor drugs that helped with treating HIV infections, hepatitis B, malaria, and other, like, for example, also they used medication that induced vomiting. Now, for the vaccines, we're going to go ahead and move forward to the vaccines. The vaccines in COVID-19 vaccine article, which we have a site, we have that citation down there, or that site that you can visit. It states that October 2020, 321 possible vaccines were being developed, but one has created vaccine trials, but only one has created the vaccine trials to prove their ability to cure the virus safely. But in October 2020, in October 2020. So since October that was happening, but in October 2020, there was 44 vaccine candidates that were in clinical research. Although the quality and quantity of the antibody result by a possible vaccine are intended to counterbalance the COVID-19 infection. A vaccine may have an unintended opposite effect by causing ADE, which we'll kind of go into that a little bit later in the definitions, which increases the virus attachment. So instead of it helping, it can also make it very, very worse. And it'll cause, right now the vaccines are causing a lot of issues, so they haven't yet found the right one. Now we're going to move on to the misconceptions.
All righty. Many misconceptions revolve around the coronavirus, due in part to how it was handled, how information spread to the public, and how research and government agencies acted. They needed to act quick to answer any questions that the public had to try and contain and slow the spread. A lot of citizens ended up divided into a few different groups of thought thanks to this spread of misinformation. Not knowing who was immune, who was affected, and how it actually spread made it harder to flatten the curve. And in general, the population just wasn't sure what they were allowed or not allowed to do.
So I have just a few definitions here. Neutralization is a chemical reaction in which acid and a base reaction. So it's where they, I guess they attack. Yeah.
I also have some terms and definitions.
Yeah. So, yep. So that concludes the summary. So moving forward to the summary, we have come to a clear agreement that there are a lot of negative information that we found and not a lot of hopeful information, but we do see that there are a lot of people out here trying to gather good vaccines that will not cause more trauma and pain. But unfortunately, we haven't yet found the best, we haven't yet found that vaccine. And as Bree was explaining, there's a lot of misconceptions, and which also interacts with fear, and it really can cause people to separate and not be one and understand that we're all going through this together. I do hope within time we are able to find the vaccine and bring those cases down. Yeah. Bree, do you have any summary thoughts?
No.
Okay, I feel like we're good.
I think so.
So I'm just gonna.
I did not do my terms and definitions.
Did you want to do your terms and definitions?
Nah, I don't care.
Are you sure?
I really do not care.
Okay. No, I don't want you not to care. Do you want to? You can do it.
No, I don't care.